While you all are filling out the poll, I can start by giving just a quick introduction. So my name is Ina Lupin. I am the Community Assistance Program Manager at the Strategic Growth Council as part of the Community Assistance for Climate Equity team. And so I'll be talking to you about the technical assistance guidelines for state agencies that we just recently launched. We actually created a web-based toolkit that we're really excited to share with you all today. And I also have Sarah Risher on the line, who's going to be helping us out with, keeping tabs on the chat and sort of running the show. So Sarah, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. Like Ina said, my name is Sarah Risher. I am the assistant analyst on the Community Assistance for Climate Equity team, and I'm so excited to be here today and that you all have joined us for this.
Just going to walk through the agenda quickly. So I'm going to give a quick introduction to the Strategic Growth Council for those of you who aren't familiar with our organization, and then also a little bit of information about the California Climate Investments Technical Assistance Program. And then I'll dive into the TA guidelines, giving some information about the background and process for creating the document. I'll talk through some of the content of the document, and then I'll give you all just a quick demo so that you can see what it looks like and kind of get a sense of how to navigate it. And then we'll have time, hopefully we'll have plenty of time for questions and comments from folks. So we'd love to have a robust conversation if anyone wants to share any experiences that you all have had doing TA or any questions that you may have. So with that, this is the vision and mission of the Strategic Growth Council. And so we are actually a part of the Governor's Office. We work very closely with the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. And we really work on a number of issues that are related directly to the intersection of sustainability, equity, economic prosperity, and quality of life. We have a number of grant programs, which many of you are probably familiar with. Most of them are funded through the cap and trade programs. But we also have quite a few different policy initiatives that you could find out more information about on our website. And then we also have this capacity building and technical assistance body of work that I'll mostly be talking about today. This is our council. So the council itself is made up of 6 agency secretaries, cabinet members, and then we also have Kate Gordon, who's the director of the Office of Planning and Research, as our council chair, as well as 3 public members. And then this is a little bit of information about our technical assistance program. So we've been providing technical assistance for California climate investments programs since 2016. We provide a number of different kinds of technical assistance, from capacity building, which is a lot of support around partnership development and kind of creating opportunities for folks to learn more about the California climate investments programs and supporting on a number of different pieces that can help folks sort of get their projects ready to go and at the point where they might be ready to put together an application. And then we also provide application assistance and implementation assistance for grantees that have already received funding. So, diving into the background and process for the technical assistance guidelines, I first wanted to start out with talking about what technical assistance is and the way that we define it. This is a term that gets thrown around a lot, and I think at different times we may mean different things by it. So we took a really broad definition of technical assistance in working on the technical assistance guidelines, and are really hoping that this document can be useful to a broad range of different types of technical assistance services. And the definition that we used is the process of providing targeted support to an agency, organization, or individual with a development need or resource gap. It may be delivered in many different ways, such as one-on-one consultation, small group facilitation, technical resources and analysis, or a web-based clearinghouse. And so The technical assistance guidelines are really relevant to technical assistance that's supported around grants, but also for other types of technical assistance, like supporting around different policy initiatives or providing technical guidance. So the technical assistance guidelines themselves were actually created in response to legislation. Senate Bill 1072 was passed in 2018 by Senator Leyva, and it directed SGC to develop these guidelines. They're meant to be a guidance document and really a resource for state agencies and other stakeholders to better understand some best practices that SGC and our partner agencies have come to understand through our technical assistance efforts. We created a document that was approved by our council in August, and then we've just launched this web-based toolkit that I'll show you in a little bit. But it's really kind of designed to help you think through all of the different pieces of developing a TA program. We developed the document through a very collaborative process. We worked with a large group of stakeholders. We had a technical assistance work group that we put together with 23 members, and they were coming from all of these 13 different agencies. And we really brought together folks who had a lot of experience doing technical assistance in different capacities, and who were working, in different sectors. And so we're able to really bring just a real wealth of information to the document. We also did quite a bit of community and stakeholder input and outreach to make sure that the document was also responsive to community needs. And so in 2020, we had virtual listening sessions, mostly one-on-one with approximately 40 entities. And we were able to talk with them about, what their technical assistance and capacity building needs were on the ground, and how state agencies can best support their efforts. We also released a draft of the document for public comment in 2020 and incorporated stakeholder feedback. So the audience for the TA guidelines is mainly state agencies, as you'll notice from the title, Technical Assistance Guidelines for State Agencies. But I think the document is also really helpful for folks who are interested in providing TA as TA providers themselves, or who are interested in receiving technical assistance and better understanding the state's processes. So the TA guidelines outlines, a lot of the core principles that SGC and our partner agencies think should really underpin all technical assistance efforts, and a real vision around technical assistance for the state of California. We also provide some information about the state contracting process, and we highlight some case studies and best practices that will hopefully be useful to both state agencies and to other stakeholders as well. So now I will go through the content. So this is basically the outline of what we have within the technical assistance guidelines. And I have a slide on each one of these to kind of walk through the content of each one. Maybe I'll just go to the next slide here. Which the first is the core principles of technical assistance. And this is something that we developed with our working group, really recognizing that even though technical assistance may focus on a lot of different sectors and issue areas, there are some really core values that should underpin all of the technical assistance that we're doing at the state level. And so we came up with these 7 core principles that I'm hoping you all will agree are really helpful for developing technical assistance and thinking through, what should really be sort of the core values behind it. So the first is social equity. As I'm sure many of you know, social equity is distinct from equality in that it really means focusing efforts and attention on the communities that need support the most. And so technical assistance that's offered by the state should really be thinking about how we can best support disadvantaged and low-income communities in the state, frontline communities, however you may define the folks that need your support the most. But that really should be something that's central to the way that you think about technical assistance. The next is capacity building. Capacity building really means thinking about the sustainability and the long-term impact of technical assistance, trying to make sure that not only are we helping folks to get grants or to implement policies, depending on what the technical assistance is focusing on, but that we're also creating an opportunity for folks to continue doing that work moving forward, even after the technical assistance term has ended. So thinking about, building really strong partnerships on the ground, building skills and social infrastructure that can then, create opportunities for folks to succeed even past the time of the technical assistance itself. The third is trust. One in our conversations with the work group is that technical assistance is a really great opportunity to build trust with communities across the state. It's an opportunity for the state to really show up and be able to help communities that need it most. And so really thinking about how you can design your technical assistance to be able to build trust, both between folks on the local level and your state agency, but also creating opportunities for there to be more trust between different entities on the ground through partnerships and building some of those stronger relationships between local agencies and community groups, for example, or other potential stakeholders and partners on the ground. That's a really important piece, which leads pretty well, I think, into the community engagement core principle, which here we really, think that it's important for all TA to be making sure that that the projects and the work that's happening on the ground is community engaged. And so technical assistance in many ways can actually help support with doing technical assistance, but can also help to build community partnerships and really have an eye to making sure that the work that's being done is community led and community engaged. Next, we have cultural awareness. This is something that in a state as diverse as California is really critically important as we're engaging with under-resourced, low-income disadvantaged communities across the state. This is something that we should really be thinking about in terms of language access, but also in terms of selecting technical assistance providers who have experience working with low-income and disadvantaged communities in the state, and ideally that represent those communities in some ways and will be able to really understand some of the issues that they may be facing on the ground. Next is local relevance. This one is really about how do we make sure that we're not providing the same TA to everyone across the state, but that we're really making sure that the technical assistance is meeting needs on the ground. So partnerships with local organizations can be really helpful in developing this and making sure that the TA is relevant, doing a lot of listening sessions and engagement with folks. But I think this is something that we've seen definitely, as we've been struggling with COVID in the state. There are often things that will come up, and we need to figure out how we can pivot to make sure that the assistance that we're providing is actually meeting needs on the ground. And then the last point, this is a pretty dense slide, but I'm almost done. The last point I think is really, really critical. And this is one that can, I think, pretty easily be forgotten, but it's something that we should always be thinking about in doing technical assistance, is making sure that we're not only providing information to communities through technical assistance, but that we're also really learning a lot from the communities that we're working with to make sure that we are improving our programs, that we're finding out how we can best support communities through the different programs that we have available. And also that we're learning from our technical assistance providers, who often have a really unique perspective, working with folks on the ground and being able to work with so many folks in a really sort of intimate way. And so that's a really important piece that we need to be thinking about, is how do we sort of leverage these technical assistance sort of opportunities and efforts that we have going to make sure that we're also learning as much as possible. The other piece that is also connected with this mutual learning is creating opportunities for peer-to-peer learning, so that when we're providing TA as appropriate, we can create opportunities for folks to learn from each other as well. So the next section is on getting started and designing an effective technical assistance program. And we have 3 steps that we developed to do this. The first is analyzing needs and gaps. This one is really important as you're thinking about, you know, what kind of TA would you like to provide? Maybe you've gotten to the point where you know you'd like to do some kind of technical assistance to support folks, but really getting a sense from looking at the data that you have available to you about who's applying for your programs, or, you know, who is unsuccessfully maybe applying to your programs, where are their gaps? That's a really important thing to take into account. Doing community engagement and listening sessions to better understand needs on the ground. And then also thinking about, you know, the overall goals of your program and how can technical assistance help to really move forward and advance your goals. Once you have a sense of all of that information around the needs and gaps that exist, the next step is to think about what goals you would like to set and what intended outcomes you'd like to see in the technical assistance program. And then the third step, determine, you know, the structure of the technical assistance that you'll be providing. So here we have the distinction of in-house versus third-party technical assistance. In-house TA, here we really mean that state agency staff may be providing TA, and this in some cases can be really helpful for providing technical guidance on specific policies, things like that. Another option, if the resources are available, is to have third-party technical assistance. And this is something that most of the technical assistance, or I should say actually all of the technical assistance that we do at the Strategic Growth Council is third-party technical assistance. And for those of you who do have California climate investments programs, it is possible for you to be able to use some of your program funds also for technical assistance. So, you know, if you are interested in third-party technical assistance, feel free to reach out to us if you have questions, but there are often ways to be able to find some funding to support that kind of TA. The next thing to think about is whether or not you want to focus on capacity building, application assistance, implementation assistance, or kind of do a hybrid with multiple elements of that kind of TA. I talked through those different types of TA a little bit more earlier, but you know, in some cases, it does really help to support folks throughout the entire process of developing a project. And so we have a few case studies on our website, and we're hoping to build out more case studies that can kind of show some examples of what that might look like on the ground. The next is thinking about the structure of the TA in terms of partnerships, whether or not you're able to bring in community-based organizations or other local anchor institutions. And then lastly, thinking about how the program will be evaluated. This is something we talk about quite a bit in the evaluation section of the TA guidelines, but it's really important to think about evaluation from the very beginning as you design your program to make sure that the evaluation is able to help you really sort of measure your steps towards meeting the goals that you set out initially. So the next section is kind of focusing on the nuts and bolts of the state contracting processes. We have a really robust section that, the state contracting manual provides sort of a lot more detailed information about contracting, but this is really meant to be kind of a primer that helps you better understand what contracting methods may be useful to you if you're looking to do technical assistance. Certainly, we reference the state contracting manual a lot, so that's another great resource as well. We also provide some guidance on developing a scope of work and deliverables, as well as some guidelines around budgeting and timeline, as well as also competitive bidding guidance and contract language. The next section is on project management. So here we have some tips around clarifying roles and points of contact, guidance and tools for effective communication, guidance for selecting and engaging with TA recipients. These are things that we really built out just from the experience of having managed a lot of technical assistance. And so we're hoping this will be really helpful to folks who may be starting out with TA and might benefit from some of those lessons learned. Next, we have a section on evaluation, as I mentioned earlier. And so we think through in this section, setting evaluation goals, budgeting for evaluation, developing an evaluation plan, thinking really about how to make sure that stakeholder participation and engagement is a really distinct and important part of your evaluation, metrics and data collection, and then communicating results. So this section, also really highlights a bunch of, or a few best practices that you might think about in doing your evaluation. And then next we have communications. This is something that, I think is really important for us to think about as we do technical assistance. A lot of us in state agencies do so much great work, and sometimes it's easy to forget about communicating about it and making sure that folks know about it. So this section is really providing guidance for folks around how to plan out a communications plan for the technical assistance that you're doing, getting a sense of your audience, thinking through accessibility, which is really important, both for language accessibility and then ADA compliance of documents, and then also storytelling, and then outreach and spreading the word about the TA offerings that you have available. So next, we have a few case studies that I just wanted to walk you through. We have a couple more on the website that I'll be able to show you as well, but a few different examples of TA that I thought might be helpful to talk through. So the first is the Climate Smart Ag Technical Assistance Program that SGC sort of has partnered with the Department of Food and Agriculture to support. And so this program is helping farmers, particularly disadvantaged farmers and ranchers across the state, to apply for the Healthy Soils Program and the SWEEP program as well, which focuses on water efficiency. And so we were able to fund 10 positions of community education specialists across the state who are working on the ground over a relatively long period of time to build relationships, working with local farm bureaus and cooperative extensions and local community-based organizations to really sort of build a network of folks who can help them with outreach and providing technical assistance to different folks within the regions that they're focusing on. So they're spread out across the state and doing really great work on supporting these different applications. And then in addition to that, CDFA also has technical assistance grants that they provide to nonprofits RCDs and to the UC Cooperative Extension as well. And so that's another program that may be of interest to folks. The next case study is the Active Transportation Resource Center's Technical Assistance for Disadvantaged Communities program. And this one, we started out actually with doing a pilot in partnership with Caltrans, actually. The Strategic Growth Council partnered with Caltrans to provide technical assistance to 5 disadvantaged communities that had never received active transportation program funding. 3 out of 5 were funded in the program's most competitive year, which was really, really great. And we had a pretty robust group of technical assistance providers, including some nonprofits and folks that were able to support them in developing their applications. Caltrans has continued this program and has expanded it to be able to support 10 applicants this year, including 2 tribal applicants. And I believe they're planning on continuing to move forward that program in the future. And then lastly, another case study that I wanted to highlight is the Boost pilot program. This is a program that SGC created with the Institute for Local Government to provide technical assistance to advance social equity and climate action to 10 jurisdictions and 2 regions. This program is really meant to be quite adaptive to the needs of communities on the ground. We met with folks to kind of develop a scope of work with each one of the communities to make sure that we were actually meeting their specific goals to help them move forward on their climate and equity efforts. And so we supported all kinds of capacity building work, from one-on-one coaching, grant application support, staff training, stakeholder engagement, and climate action planning. This is one of the examples that I mentioned before, where we span the gamut of capacity building, application assistance, and implementation assistance. And we're able to really provide sort of very holistic services to folks. We have done a ton of different pilots actually through our program, and we hope to continue building out the case studies that we have on our website. I also would just like to shout out to folks who are state agencies and who would like to add a case study to our website. We're continuing to add more case studies as we move forward. And then lastly, I wanted to talk through the tribal appendix just briefly. It's something that we're working on. It's currently under development, but this is a document that we have a draft of up on our website. And it really is meant to help folks as they think through technical assistance that's specific to tribes. So it mirrors the format of the rest of the TA guidelines, including its own core principles and guidance around analyzing needs and gaps in different resources that might be helpful. And it provides some framing and background for folks that may not have information about the historic relationship between tribes and the state, which is really very critically important to understand before moving forward with a process of working with tribes. And also some information around tribal sovereignty that will be important to understand, as well as the difference between consultation and communication with tribes. The formal consultation process through CEQA, for example, is very different than communication with tribes through technical assistance. And so with that, I think I will maybe pause to see if we have any burning questions. I know I just talked at you all for quite some time, and then I'll just do a quick demo of the toolkit that we developed. So I guess now I'll just show you all what the site looks like. Feel free to chime in if anyone wants me to show them something in particular. But actually, Sarah, if you could drop the link to the site in the chat, that would be great. And then you all can kind of follow along and click wherever you want to. But we're really excited about this. I'm hoping that it's going to make this document much more accessible for you all to use and to kind of read through the pieces that are useful for you. We have, information about each one of the core principles that you'll see here. And then we broke up each one of the sections. So if you're interested in analyzing needs and gaps, you can find some guidance around that with links to different documents and resource, and like the resource page or the evaluation page that are a part of this document as well. We have, so the contracting guidance, project management, evaluation, and communications that I discussed earlier. And then we also have this case studies page where we're hoping to be able to, I'll show this one, to continue building out these case studies. We use the same headings for each one, focused kind of on the goals, TA providers, TA recipients, budget, activities, outcomes, and lessons learned of each one of the projects. But just want to throw out a pitch to folks if you are interested in getting one of your case studies up on the website. I think that would be great. And then we also have this resources page, which has a number of other resources that could be useful to folks. The guidelines are by no means extensive, or exhaustive, I should say. So I think that there are a lot of other resources that would be great. And again, this is meant to be a living document. So if you all have feedback of other resources that you think we should add, I would be really happy to hear about those. The tribal TA guidance, as I said, isn't out yet, but we also have this section here on community engagement that has some best practices around that as well. And with that, I think maybe we can see if folks have questions or comments.
Hi, Ina. I just want to chime in and say thank you very much for the information, for showing, this TA guidelines document. I believe that will be very, very helpful for the agencies who are interested in it, and they have no background information in terms of where to start, what are the various, difficulties when you want to even provide a technical assistance and guidance and capacity building kind of a program. So I think these kind of kind of information sharing platforms, they are well needed. As you guys all are aware, CARB is very much interested in providing our communities or equipping them with the tools to make better informed transportation decisions. And based on that, we provide various kind of TAs. And thank you to SGC. We started actually partnering with our first TA back in 2016 and 17. We partnered with SGC, and then we hired LGC to do the work for us. And now, based on that initial work, we are in that capacity where we are providing technical assistance, capacity building, and those kind of guidance to our communities. And I'm really proud to tell you that last year in our funding plan, where the money comes from California Climate Investments, we had almost $1 million, particularly kind of separated out for technical assistance and capacity building, because based on all the efforts we are doing and these guidelines and what this document has created, that we were able to justify the need to partner with our local communities. So for that money, we are actually partnering with local community-based organizations, and we are able to provide $50,000 scholarship. And to be very honest, based on those guidelines and the experience we had in the practical field, we learned that, just imposing our, our understanding of what the technical assistance and capacity building is not going to take us anywhere. And so working actually for our technical assistance and, capacity building TA, we worked with our communities, in partnership with, we had the third party, which is Grid Alternatives, who are implementing that program on our behalf. So based on these guidelines, as well as what we have learned in the practical field, it gives us the tool to communicate openly and build that trust within the communities and community-based organizations who are representing those communities, to ask them that, hey, what your needs are. Because before, we never had time, like, the staff and the resources constraints, but, everything what is happening, we were able to communicate to our management that, hey, there is a need there and there is a process, we need to follow that process. And based on that, we interviewed various communities and asked them what their needs are. I mean, whether they want an intern, because before we were saying, hey, we want internship program or youth ambassador program within communities, and we want to equip them through youth. But actually this year, I'm proud to say that we were able to spend some time meaningfully with our communities, where we asked them mutual understanding and mutual communication, and through mutual learning process, that what their needs are. And based on that, we developed a technical assistance and capacity building program. And we will be, currently we are in a process of launching that program, and that will be maybe in a month or so. We will be able to kind of do the onboarding process, where we are partnering with local community-based organizations, and we are giving them a scholarship for their work they will be doing on our behalf, and it's around $50,000. So again, and there are a lot of things happening in that field. And this is this document is a start. Every time, whether we are doing a practical project or not, sometimes we have to look at the guidance. Somebody asks, hey, how you are saying this is the best practice? And now we have something solid to refer it back to, that based on the information and this document, which all the kind of state agencies have compiled, these are the best practices, and we want to follow all those. So kudos to the whole team. I'm really proud to for this document to be out, and I'm really happy that based on this guidance and the work we have done in the practical field, we were able to get $1 million for this kind of pilot project. Currently we are calling it a pilot because still it's on a small scale. But we want to expand it. And when you were saying all those things, that we just not only want to build capacity, but we want sustainability within communities. And I also learned, while working with you guys on this technical assistance document, that we need non-traditional partners as well. We always look for easy way out, but I think now we have to expand our horizons. And I'm also proud to let you guys know that we learned that there are a couple of groups, like faith-based organization, who are doing a lot of work in the equity field. They are doing needs assessment for their communities, and they are the faith-based organizations. So we actually reached out to them and asked them that what kind of work they are performing in their communities, and we will be partnering with them to expand our trusted partners, because we learned that they have really strong ties with the communities. They congregate and talk about their issues in the churches and all those places. So why not we can partner with them and give them the tools if they are already interested in their community's needs assessment and understanding and conveying it to the communities that what your needs are, and then trying to working with us to address that. So I think first of all, thank you very much for the time. I don't want to take all the time, but couple of things want to mention that, kudos again for this technical assistance document. And based on that, it's great to that the agencies, they are working and striving for sustainability and equipping communities so they can be sustainable. And first of all, understand our programs, and based on their understanding, they are equipped with the tools to be apply for our programs. And then I think one thing I really want to mention that we should not focus on one area like community-based organizations or local area organization. We should we should be more inclusive and look for the avenues through which we can expand our trusted partners. And I believe faith-based organizations can play a very, very important and vital role. And we now working with community-based organizations, we learned that piece, and we're gonna try to pilot that with faith-based organizations. And maybe in a year or so, or in 6 months, I'll come back and let you guys know how did that went. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Imbreen. That's great. And I think folks are blowing up the chat with kudos to you. And thank you for sharing all of that awesome insight. Imbreen was a part of our TA guidelines work group and had a lot of really, really helpful pieces of wisdom to add to so thanks so much. And so exciting to hear about that work that CARB is doing. I know that may be a hard act to follow, but does anyone else want to chime in with questions or, I think it would be helpful also if anyone has some experience providing technical assistance or being involved with TA that they would like to share.
Hi, can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. So this is Monica from the Public Utilities Commission. Just want to thank you all for all the time and effort to put these guidelines together. At our agency, technical assistance is not something that we've traditionally done. We've, sort of done technical assistance in a few programs and a couple of different ways, but are certainly being called to really consider how we could think about implementing technical assistance in a more intentional way. And so I just really appreciate you all being able to put together the toolkit in a way that's really easy to just, find and everything. The extra time to make it into a toolkit is really appreciated, because as we start to consider these things and also need to do some, education inside of our agency on what this is, this will be really helpful. So just wanted to say a big thank you, and I'm excited to dive into the resources.
Great. Thank you, Monica. And yeah, I also wanted to say that we're always available too, as folks are starting to think through what they might do in terms of technical assistance, particularly for agencies that maybe don't have as much of a history of providing TA. We're really happy to be able to talk you through the process and provide as much support as we can. So I will include in the chat here my contact information and would love to connect with anyone who would like to chat through some ideas. All right. Well, I think maybe we can leave it there unless anyone else has a question or comment they wanted to add. But really want to thank everyone for joining today and encourage you to reach out if you have other questions or would like to engage with us in any way on technical assistance. So thanks so much and have a great rest of your day.